there on social media. Here's what the bracket actually looks like. Cincy, Philly, Orlando versus Columbus, that's in the East. In the West, Houston and Sporting Kansas City. Wind back the years on that one. That used to be a great rivalry about a decade ago. And then what's been a great rivalry of late, Seattle Sounders and LAFC. So some great matchups there as we get to the semis. But before we think about the future of the MLS playoffs, Herc, let's look back. Now that we've had a chance to really live through these best-of-3 series, how do we feel about them? Are we cool with it?
I absolutely hate it. I hate this. I absolutely hate that it's the best of 3. Just give more games, congested schedule, let these players get hurt. Oh, and by the way, in between these games, there's going to be a FIFA fixture date. So now you're going to have 3 weeks, 21 days between games. So think about the last time we had this event happen. It was 2 years ago when the New England Revolution weren't arguably the best team in Major League Soccer. They were statistically the best team in Major League Soccer in its history. 73 points, the #1 team. Nobody could touch them. League MVP Carles Hill. You had Matt Turner, who was the goalkeeper of the year, heading in at home to play against New York City FC after 21 days, and boy, did the rust show. They ended up being booted from the MLS Cup playoffs versus New York City FC in a game where you can clearly see they were affected by the long layoff. Now factor in that long layoff that we're going to see for multiple teams in this FIFA fixture window, and a lot of those teams have players that go on for national team duty. As a player, I lived it, and you're seeing it more even now because there is a game for a player every 3-4 days, it seems like, all around the world, and players are going down like flies. We see it all the time. I absolutely hate this. You're prioritizing the dollar, you're prioritizing the gate, you're prioritizing whatever you want besides the sporting. It's just a bad look. It's going to look even more terrible when your stars aren't playing, and now we're going to see a team that's in motion, in favor, in rhythm, go on a stalemate for 21 days and see if they can repick that momentum going forward. I just don't like it.
I've said it before. There was some part of me that wanted to like the best of 3, that thought it could have some benefits. It could accelerate some rivalries if you had a really good postseason series. But the reality, Herc, is the teams that we got here, the 1-8 matchups, the 2-7 matchups, the 3 versus 6, you don't want 3 games of that. Right? That's kind of average Major League Soccer. I want 3 games of a conference final. Like that I could get into. But when it's the 3rd game of a 3 versus 6 or a 2 versus 7, I'm sorry, there's just not, on a weekend where, as you're going to see in this show, there was an NWSL championship, a USL final. Those games really feel like they matter. There's trophies on the line. When you get repeat matchups like this, it just doesn't work for me. I think when they look at this as a whole, maybe they bring best of 3 back, but not for the first round. I saw a tweet that you had, though, just a few moments before the show started. You're very negative on this playoff format. But do you like it less or more than the Liga MX playoff format? Because it doesn't sound like you're a very big fan of that either.
I like it less. I like the MLS one less. I think the Liga MX one, just if anything, I mean, they whittled down from 12 to 10, and that 10, if you're 10 or 9 and you lose that first game, you got a second chance, a la the NBA. I like that a little bit more than saying, here you go, 66% of the league, go ahead and play. Honestly, I hate them both, but it's the one that I hate less.
Yeah. And we didn't even mention the biggest problem with the best of 3, which didn't happen this time, but it's the circumstance that you pointed out a couple weeks ago, which is one team wins big, and then another team draws a couple games and advances on penalty shootouts. I think if that had happened this year, they would have had to scratch it next year guaranteed. That didn't happen, so maybe they let it live on another year, but certainly lots to complain about when it comes to the new postseason structure in MLS. And if we know anything about Major League Soccer, there'll be a new playoff structure next year, so we'll have more to complain about then.